here in Texas because all of my colleagues are in Florida. But you know why I'm not in Florida? Because I know that Texas is ground zero. And I've been doing this a long time. I mean, 12 years ago, I was sitting in a room just like this, sitting where you are, for another candidate that I was supporting against a long-time incumbent who had $200 million in the bank. And my candidate was at 3%. You know what? We won. And we're going to do it again with Don Huffines. And usually I would think, well, we've got a lot of strong conservatives in Texas. I can go with my colleagues, continue the fight at the national level. So I'm going to share some information with you today that's going to be very, very disturbing, disheartening, and it even might make you feel a little hopeless. But then I promise I'll tell you how we can fix it. Because the federal government is gone. It is lost. There is no saving it, there is no fixing it, and there is no draining it. Because the one person that could have and should have done all of those things couldn't get it done. And there will be no one else like that in our lifetime. So I'm here to tell you that it's gone. Here's the good news. We come from a foundation of founding fathers who gave us the greatest tools in all of humanity, right there in the Constitution. Which means all of the power in our country comes from you, the people. And it's so sad to me, especially being a grassroots person, that we were on this trip in the Grassroots. It was one of the original founders of the Tea Party movement. Any Tea Partiers in the room? We started that process of getting back to the basics, of taking care of our local level, holding our state officials accountable, and we did a clean sweep with the exception of the one we're about to sweep this cycle. But then when Trump got elected, we sort of just said, oh, finally, he'll go fix it. He'll do it. And he fought like hell. Fought everyone, every party, every country, every evil spirit you can think of, he had to take it on. And ultimately, along the way, he empowered some bad people. Didn't remove some bad people. Didn't do the necessary things that he should have done to help correct the course. And I believe all of that was by divine order. Because it is not the president's responsibility to do our job. We are the ones who are supposed to hold politicians accountable. Us. Nobody else, folks. Hate to break it to you, but it's all on you. No one is coming to save you. You are the cavalry. And it's so simple. It's just not easy. You're going to knock on doors. You're going to talk to your neighbors. You're going to make the phone calls. You're going to show up. You're going to represent constitutional freedom and liberty. And there's a few folks in this race. As a grassroots person, I love a good primary. But there's one that always stands out. When Don Huffines is changing policy in Austin just for existing, I think you're backing the right candidate, right? I mean, it's amazing to me. 30 years Abbott has been in Austin. 30 years being paid by you. And he couldn't have the instincts to know that critical race theory is probably not a good idea. He didn't know that securing the southern border of the state of Texas should have been a priority. In fact, his first priority when he became governor was to expand pre-K. We call that a magnet for illegal immigration. But then suddenly, Don Huffines gets in the race and Abbott is strong on the border. And the best part is, he says, oh, it's, Biden's border. Oh, no, no, no. They've been coming across that border as long as I've been alive. And just in case you forgot, when Donald Trump asked for the border states to declare an emergency, Abbott did not. He could have had every ounce of the federal government behind him to solve this problem while Trump was in office. And he didn't even have the guts to attend a border summit with the Border Patrol on the border with President Trump. Do you remember that? He didn't even show up. But all of a sudden, he wants a wall. You think we're going to get a wall? No. We'll get a fence. And it's pretty sad and it's pretty pathetic and it's unbecoming of a leader of the state of Texas, because Texas should be leading on every single issue that faces our nation. But instead, we're in the shadows of Florida. Exactly. We're in the shadows of Governor No. Do you know she never shut down her state? Good for her. Not once. Not once did she close down her state. We broke the country the second that decision was made. And we'll likely never recover from that. But again, the good news is, if you have a strong governor, who cares what the federal government says? We're not going to ask for permission to protect ourselves, our families, to keep our businesses open, to go to church. Can you believe that in Texas, the governor closed the churches? I mean, every time you turn on the TV, you wonder what world we're living in. But now we got to ask ourselves, what state are we living in? When we're actually debating whether or not we should do sex changes on 6-year-olds? I mean, how is that even a thing? Why are we even having this type of discussion? Like, this should be a non-issue. But yet we're having all of these crazy decisions being made at the level of our politicians, which are simply just really common sense. No, you should not do sex changes on children. In fact, those parents need to be held accountable for trying. No, you should not close down churches. No, you do not get to pick and choose which businesses are essential. I mean, mom and pops can easily put a little red X on their floor in their restaurant, but all the corporations remained open. How illogical is all of this? And I tell people all the time, you have to suspend all logic and all reason to be okay with what's happening today. People are literally on their way to their 5th vaccine shot. 5. Like, it's no big deal. I mean, could you imagine being so brainwashed that you're literally standing in line to get injected with an experimental drug for the 5th time? Because it didn't work the first time, or the second time, or the 3rd time, or the 4th time. But hey, maybe this time you'll be, safe. Let me know how that works out for them in about 10 years. So, we are just really in a position where it is truly up to us. we're going to have to work really, really hard for the next couple of months to put Don Huffines in the governor's mansion. Yes! Because if not, we're in trouble. Because right now we got a guy who doesn't really want to do anything unless the polls say do something. We need somebody that has the instincts of a statesman. Someone that can be given information and say, you know, it's not worth destroying the lives and the livelihoods of 350 million people to save a hypothetically 2. It didn't make sense then, it doesn't make sense now, and it is not acceptable in this country. But I believe a lot of people are waking up. You know, when I started out on this journey 12, 13 years ago, I didn't know what was going to happen. All I knew is that something is wrong. And I needed to do my part to fix it. So, started some grassroots events. Some of you folks were right there with me. We went all over the state, eventually went all over the country. Ended up getting, dozens of congressmen elected, several senators elected. And they would always say, oh, well, if we just had the House and the Senate. Then we give them the House. And they say, oh, well, if we had the Senate and the White House, right? And then we give them the Senate, like, oh, we can't do anything until we get the White House. And then we give them the White House, and what happened? We had a party that for practically a decade say, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. But we need the White House. Remember that? And we gave them the White House. And what they did. Exactly. But I say that to you because there are so many people who get comfortable with who is representing them. And they always want to point the finger. Well, my person is good. We go to Thanksgiving together, our kids go to school together, and they keep electing these people over and over again because at one point in their lives they had a feel-good moment with them. Those are the politicians who are the problems. And so what I want to tell you today is there should be one issue that you vote on from here on out, because it is not going to get any easier. And that one issue that you should measure every city councilman, every state representative, every state senator, every congressman, every statewide official, and most importantly, your governor, because your state is the first line of defense against an overreaching federal government. That one issue is freedom. Forget about all the rest. I'm pro-life, no exceptions as well. Okay? I'm a conservative through and through. But that's not enough anymore. The number one issue for everyone in this room moving forward should simply be freedom. Because once you lose your freedom, none of the other issues matter. Are you hearing me? We have political prisoners in this country right now. One of them was a young boy who the judge denied bail because he was homeschooled. Didn't want to put him back in their home. This is happening today in the United States of America. Think about that. That could have been your son, your nephew, your brother, your father. And we've got people who can actually do something about it that are just hanging out, waiting till the next election cycle.
Making their money and waiting for that pension
That's exactly right.
that they shouldn't be getting.
But it's our fault, collectively, as citizens, because we don't hold these people accountable. So I am telling you right now, freedom should be the one issue that you should vote on. And I don't know about you, but I know that when I go to sleep at night, if Don Huffines is my governor, I don't have to worry about that. I don't care about the polls. I don't care about the president. I don't care what Congress is doing, because I know that I have a principled person at the helm of my state who is not going to allow any of that nonsense come here. And as Texans, we should want that. We should dust it up. We're the come and take it state. But yet there's so many people who are just giving it. We have to stop that, and we can stop that. And so when I ended up going all over the country with President Trump, I gotta tell you, I've seen a lot of things. A lot of things that I cannot unsee. I wish I could. But there are forces out there who are against you that you haven't seen yet, that you haven't felt yet, that you haven't even seen on TV yet. And they're coming. And they look like you, they look like me, but they're coming. And they're well-funded, and they're organized, and they're all friends with big tech. And they're all going to come with solutions to our problems that they created. And they're going to make it sound really good. And that's why we have to stay prayed up, so we can discern who these people are when they come into our communities. So that we can continue to stand behind people like Don Huffines and put them in places of office. And get out those other politicians who are failing. And here's how I'm going to tell you how to seek those people out. The politicians who are in office, if they are not making headlines, they need to go. They're not fighting hard enough. I'll say it again. If they are not making headlines, they are not fighting hard enough. Use that as a measure going forward. Anybody that's complacent, that's going along, that's fine, get rid of them. So I'll tell you what, the left, if you think they're just going to sit there and let things be, you haven't been paying attention. They put activists at every single level. And we focus on our friends and our families, who we have favors to. You know, our donors don't even contribute to the cause. So it's all on us. But we have the ability to take back all of the power, all of the control, and all of the authority. Because that's how our founders designed it. So we have to remind people that we can actually get out there and make a change. And you can do it in one election cycle. Just one. And hopefully some people in other states will realize they have recall and they should use it. In the state of Texas, we have people, we should push for recall measures. Just in case we have an elected official that gets out of line, we can pull them right out. Because we, the people, have the right to revoke our consent. And we have the tools and the means and the resources to do so. So a little thing about Trump, people always want to know. Yes, he likes McDonald's. Yes, he has a Diet Coke on his desk every day. And yes, he eats his steak very, very, very well done. Not a rumor. He likes that. And, you know, being with him has been really enlightening, because one of the things that he has been able to do is he's been able to teach Republicans how to fight. And he taught them that if you fight, you can win. Some Republicans have figured that out. Some are just too cowardless to even try. That's where we come in. We should only now elect fighters, period. Because we're in a fight. And like I said, it's not going to get any easier. And whenever they would come to Trump and say, oh, well, you know, Mr. Trump, you can't do this because, you know, we haven't done it this way and we can't find a way to do that. He would look at them in the eye and say, I don't care. Go figure it out. Figure it out. The man didn't like to be told no. And that's what we need. Because we've been doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And what is that called? Exactly. Greg Abbott's been in Austin for 30 years. 30 years, and things are getting worse. That's the key. Things are getting worse. So I'm actually back in Texas to get on the front lines with all of you to take on this habit machine, which by the way isn't a machine, you know, it's all hype. It's all hype. People outside of Texas, they think, oh, Abbott's strong, and then I spend about 6 minutes explaining things, and they're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And I say, yeah, it's a disaster. But now we have an opportunity to get a governor that's not only going to lead this state where we need it to go in the future, but is going to bring back our swagger. When I would go across the country, they'd say, where are you from? You have an accent. I'm like, I don't have an accent. Like, yeah, you have an accent. It's like, I'm from Texas. I'm like, oh, okay. Because when you say Texas, people automatically think strength, other than cowboy. They think strength. They think tough. They think strong. They think independent. It's like, oh, you guys are like your own little country. I'm like, damn straight. I say it every time. Because it's true. We have a certain pride in Texas. And people all over the country know it. And we're going to lose that if we don't change our leadership. We can't let Governor Ron DeSantis be the example of freedom, of liberty, of common sense solutions. I mean, I'm embarrassed to be in the shadows of Florida, to be in the shadows of any state. I mean, it is truly embarrassing. Every time DeSantis comes up and says something or tweets, I'm like, man, this sucks. And I've always been a proud Texan. I'm still a proud Texan. That's why I'm here fighting. And now I know everybody's going to say, why did Trump endorse Abbott? Yeah, I said it for you. I know it is the number one question I get, so I figured I'd just address it for everybody. So what I will say is, you cannot explain Trump. And therefore, most of us don't even try. So I will just say that, sometimes he does things, and here we are. It's the truth. This is just him. Now, he's been talked to. It's one of those things, it's like, why did you've got my number, you call anybody in Texas, and they would have told you. But the reality is, sometimes he makes these decisions with endorsements, and they don't always work out. And I tell people through experience, it doesn't matter who Trump endorses. It just doesn't. Because Trump himself cannot pull any candidate across the finish line if the people know that candidate is not America first. Because if he could, we'd have Senator Loeffler, Senator Perdue, Congresswoman Wright. I mean, these things are just out there. So all I'm saying is don't put too much weight on that. Give yourselves more credit, because you know who supports the president, you know who supports the president's policies, and you know it's not Greg Abbott.
Exactly.
Okay? And it's going to be our job to make sure that everybody else knows the same. But I'll tell you who was there with President Trump. Dawn Huffines.
Yep.
Dawn Huffines' kids worked with me on the Trump campaign. Where are you guys at? Trump campaign alumni. So when people say, but Trump endorsed Abbott, why are you with Huffines? Because I haven't changed. I'm still going to support the most conservative candidate in the race. and that is Don Huffines. And you know, the first time that I went into the White House, I'm not gonna lie, it was really cool. It's so much smaller than I thought it was. It looks so big on TV. And so I was summoned to the White House like a day or two after they moved in, and I walked in, it was just me and the president. And he looks up, he's sitting at his desk, and I didn't even want to walk on the carpet. I walked in and I stopped, and he goes, "There she is, get over here, I wouldn't be sitting here without you." And so I just kind of tiptoed in, and I sat down. He goes, "No, come on, let's take pictures." And he gave me a little tour of the Oval and the couch and the fireplace and all the pictures, and it was just amazing. And to this day, it has not sunk in that I was actually in the White House with the President of the United States that I helped get there. Like, it's just surreal. But it was also a moment where I thought back to where I came from. Because if you had asked me 10 years ago if I thought that I'd be working for a sitting president, I mean, come on, I was hosting, events for Cardboard Cornyn back then. So I didn't know that this is where it was going, and I'll tell you why. Because unlike some people who do what I do, they do it for themselves. And I do it for the cause. And every time I met a challenge, I went right through it because the cause was the only thing that mattered. I put my head down and I moved forward. And we fought and we fought and we fought and we got to the White House. All for me to find out none of that even mattered. Here I am, full circle, right back with the Grassroots. Because this is where it matters, right here.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna lie again, it was kind of fun being on Air Force One. Calling up family members and friends from the military, just having fun on the phone. It was the coolest thing ever. But the journey itself was incredible. To go from grassroots, knocking on doors, making phone calls, getting folks elected, all the way up to the White House, to be sitting in a conference room on Air Force One with the President of the United States, having an influence on decisions that would impact not just my state, not just my country, but the entire world. I don't have the words to describe how that feels. But what I can tell you is what I know, even after all of that, the only thing that matters is grassroots. Grassroots is the way, the only way to save our country.
Yes.
It is absolutely it. I'm telling you, I have been there. I have done that at every single level. And it all comes back to the grassroots. So I want to thank you, and I want to applaud you for your efforts, and to tell you that you are actually on the leading edge of what our country is about to become. And you don't know it yet, because you don't know where you're going to be 10 years from now. But as I come back in time, I will tell you that this is where it begins. The fight will begin here, and it will be by getting Don Huffines elected as the next governor of the state of Texas. Because then so goes the nation.